These days, greetings and God bless. These days, everybody watches uh, movies, TV shows, plays video games where it's this fantastic environment and it's a fantasy theme of dragons and supernatural and paranormal and good against evil. It's very rare that a movie isn't using that metaphor, and I think that's for a reason. There's a lot of power in it and supernatural power because we are in a supernatural realm that's been created by a prime creator, a living God who is supernatural. And of course, that's been hidden from us. But the question I ask is want to stop being not non-player character. But I do notice that my liberal friends get very very offended. It's like the other N word for Black people, for our lives to a coup of the by the Satanists. Ultimately, that's who's running the Chinese Communist Party. That's who's running the deep state Illuminati. It's Satan. But anyways, and all these so all these movies have this one hero, and it's this one person that does something right. It's everybody else is just this passive lemming. Everybody else is just this fool is just spineless and does nothing. And of course, we know that is not the case when there's an earthquake, or actually before 2020. Anyway, when there's been a crisis, people, their resilience comes out, their humanity comes out, and a crisis often brings out the best in people. And that's why people send juvenile delinquents to a camp in nature or something like that. But I mean, that's a nature has so many healing qualities to it, so that's why you don't send juvenile delinquents to war as a healing program. But I think everybody is so, like, right now. So, and I would say even before, I would say during lockdowns and now, um, who's traveling? Who has so much discretionary income that during lockdowns they can travel, that they can go out to eat, that they can buy fancy clothes, right? Who are those people? Because it's certainly not the entry level workers who are working themselves to death anyway. And it's not all the people who got fired from their jobs because they didn't want to have to suffocate themselves, break their crib form plate, the blood brain barrier for their job, and they didn't want to have to get penetrated in their bloodstream for their job. So all of those people, they lost their jobs. They're like moving in with their parents or becoming homeless or something like that. But then there's all these people who are like, yeah, I'm living this great life. This is my Instagram life during lockdowns and after lockdowns, after all these businesses have closed, but I'm going to spend all this money. I'm going to be doing all this traveling. So, and of course, those are the losers, the people who faked the injection, passports, those people who complied with suffocating themselves, even though they knew it wasn't an issue. They knew that their autoimmune system was protecting them, not this flimsy piece of fabric that was too big for what they were calling that particular molecule's size, blah, blah, blah. So, um, and the thing is, yeah, people are like, I don't want to have to take any risk, and I'll throw everybody else under the bus as long as I'm fine. But I still love heroes. I still have a hero. Oh, Wonder Woman's my hero, played by a male to female. You know, like Ruth Ginsburg is my hero, who said, like, child sex uh, should be allowed at 12 years old. Like, the age of consent should be 12 years old. I mean, that's like pedophile stuff. And I think Ruth was a male to female as well. Um, and so we have these despicable people who know how to play the game, you know, and they think they're heroes or that they don't have to be heroes. Uh, and I think that's despicable, of course, um, but for those people who are like, well, being a hero, being courageous is for somebody else. It can't be for me. You can be a hero. You can, if you have a sense of, what is right. So, and how do we know what's morality? So morality is given by an authority. So who's the authority? God. Why is God the authority? Because he is the creator. And people nowadays are like, well, there's no such thing as God. I'm so philosophical, philosophical. I'm Nietzsche. God is dead. Yeah. Okay. We have existence to prove that God is alive. We have trees and birds and wind in the leaves, and beautiful oceans, and of incredible beauty and art and music that prove that God is real. But if you want to be in the biggest denier, the biggest fool, okay, you can do it, and you'll go to hell, and we'll be in heaven. Those of us who have accepted Jesus, anyway. So God is the moral authority. How do we get the information of what the prime creator tells us? The King James Bible. And everybody's going to be like, oh no, we should go back to the Greek, the Roman. We should, use these other Bibles. How do we know that the King James is accurate? You can look in my other videos about that. So the King James Bible is the official, anointed, blessed Bible according to the Bible itself. And so throughout the Bible, God's like, don't kill, don't kill, don't steal, don't envy other people, don't disrespect your parents. And of course, the parents shouldn't torture their children, so the children have to preserve their lives and stop being raped and stuff like that. So, I mean, God is not this crazy, narcissistic, pathological creature that all the atheists love to make him out to be. Who's that? But there is. That's the thing. There is a pathological, narcissistic little god, and that's called Satan. Satan is the fallen angel who's prideful, who's mean, who hates humans, who resents humans because humans are going to judge the angels. So, and humans who are in the church, who get salvation in the church age, this time we're living in right now, this age of grace, we will be judging the angels. And Satan's like, how can this puddle of mud judge me? Judge me, this powerful angel, this brilliant, beautiful, creative, most intelligent angel. How can a puddle of mud judge me? But we puddle of muds will be judging the angels, those of us who have accepted Jesus Christ as our Savior, by believing on the death, burial, and resurrection and the shed blood of Lord Jesus Christ that saves us, that redeems us, that pays the ransom to get us out of the jurisdiction of Satan. So, so I'm saying, number one, it's not about your morality. Like, some people are like, all animals are better than human beings. No, that has no moral authority. That's some type of idolatry and self-loathing. That's not moral to put animals above human beings or soil, land masses above a human life. That's just not that's not morally valid according to precedent, like legally. So yes, crony corporations will kill a bunch of people to get their land resources, like we've seen, the past, like with the directed energy weapons. And I can't go into that more specifically, but it's immoral to take away people's lands so you can have that resource. Again, that's like, don't envy your neighbor's stuff, don't steal your neighbor's stuff. And we are not under the law, so we're not under the 10 commandments, but those serve as our guiding lights, so to speak. Like, yes, don't kill people, don't steal, so forth. Um, and I would say like nowadays, people are so numbed out, they're so dumbed down. I would say people like, and I believe that humanity has devolved. Um, I would say the past like 20, 30 years. And you would have thought, like, oh, everybody's like feminism, the sexual revolution, and the gay movement, like, oh, that's so right, and blah, blah, blah. But we have seen this incredible deterioration of everything, including intelligence. People were like, oh, these feminist women were the great inventors, or these gay people were the great inventors, the great musicians, the great performers, and like who else? I mean, like these people of color were the first who ever did anything. Um, and of course, yeah, there were great human beings. That's the thing. They were human beings. It wasn't because of their womanhood or their skin color or their sexual orientation that they were exceptional. It's because it was because of who they were and not these identity politics. So, uh, so I'm just trying to say, instead of just being this lemming, this non-player character in the world, if you not you should be able to breathe freely, and your child should be able to breathe freely. Like I do think that there's a place for peaceful, like, and I mean, avoiding physical contact. I mean, it's good to avoid a physical confrontation because we fight not flesh and blood. The scripture says we fight not flesh and blood, but principalities in high places. So the system that we're up against, the Satanists that we're up against, have infiltrated the justice system. They've infiltrated the police, the fire department, medical, the hospitals, big pharma, FDA, government. So Satanists have infiltrated every agent of the trusted good, and uh, so you can't expect them to uphold the law. Well, every once in a while you'll see some video where some police oh, this one police officer does something right. Oh, this police officer, he's funny, or this one police officer is so kind and makes you cry. Like I they let that one guy go as like a lure, like same thing with that one nurse, one doctor who didn't chop you up. I think they have to let one really nice person in this system to lure you in, to lure everybody else in. And then they have like 99% are garbage. 99% want to grind you through the meat grinder and extract whatever resources they can, human traffic you, I think. And that's what I think, that's what we know the justice system is. It's this human trafficking system to, like, if you consent to have an altercation, to have a physical exchange with somebody, then you may end up um, getting extracted, and put in jail and gone through system, because courthouses are a franchise. They're actually little private businesses. Both the prosecutor, and the defense attorneys make money off of putting you in jail. So you don't want to go. You don't want to get involved in this kind of situation. And I think a lot of people assume that there's justice, and there isn't. There isn't. And the Bible has told us that. So there hasn't been justice. I mean, it may have been less heinous than it is now, where, they're legalizing child prostitution and protecting pedophiles. And I mean, that's just the worst, and turning a blind eye to human trafficking. Like 1 million children get trafficked every year in America. Like, how much child sacrifice do you need? How many children's organs do you need? How much child prostitution do you need? 1 million children? Like, that's America. America is like this amazing resource for these pedophiles and traffickers and organ harvesters. I mean, it's probably more in China because it's a complete totalitarian state. America is kind of it's becoming this like ideological totalitarian state. It's like the liberals don't want to know anything about human trafficking. Even if they have children, they're like, there's no such thing as human trafficking. There's no such thing as pedophiles. There's no such thing as um, Pizzagate, even though they themselves knew people who were molested as a child. But it's like now, no, no, in 2023, that couldn't be. It's insane. It's disgusting. But what I'm saying is, like, don't just leave it to this one person who has that combination of courage and maybe foolishness or impulsiveness. Don't just leave it to that one person to speak up, and don't just like, behind the authorities' backs, like talk to that one person who you know is right, like, and say, yeah, I believe in you, but you don't back them up. Because that's the thing. Like, that's been my personal experiences. I'll have like five people say you were right, but they won't stand behind me when it comes to this senile person who said something. And I mean like a literally senile person who forgot what they said, forgot what happened or something like that. So yeah, it's so I'm just saying, you matter. Like, you have a part to play. And again, avoid altercations, avoid any like physical contact, and avoid getting angry, because like that somehow, for some reason, having feelings seems to um, ruin any credibility. And I want to say, like, for these identity politics scenarios, if you're somebody who's in the LBGTP community, or the people of color community, or the PETA, the animal rights community, or the global warming community, but you see that there's something wrong with the totalitarianism that's going on. Like, even though it's nice that bike lanes are installed, but it ruins things for everybody really more than it helps. Or, it's nice that affirmative action happens for the LBGT or the people of color. But there's still something that's wrong about it, that's unethical. Like, you really need to speak up. Like, don't just be like, oh yeah, I get a free pass, I get another free pass, I'm so great, this is great, this is fair, this is right. Because in the end, all these decisions that are based on evil are going to eh, like eh, um steamroll, avalanche, like, they're going to build up, and they're going to have a big nasty surprise at the end, if not in this life, when you face God at the great white throne judgment. Because if you're buying into this ideology, this leftist satanic ideology, you probably don't know Jesus, you have not accepted his gift, and you're probably interested in that he wants to pay the ransom for you, so you're not under the jurisdiction of Satan. So, anyways, and maybe everybody really has to be a non-player character. Maybe everybody really is a non-player character, because the majority of Christians I know don't even know the gospel. They don't know that you just believe on the death, burial, and resurrection of Lord Jesus Christ and his shed blood that redeemed us, that paid the ransom for us. Instead, they're like, oh, get a baptism, sprinkle some water on you and say a prayer, or say this ABC prayer, or get totally immersed in some water, or you got to do communion, or this, that, and the other thing. Uh, and so I'm realizing a lot of Christians are really like a non-player character. Like, they're just full of hot air. I mean, at least they're kind of in the right direction, because the Bible is um, is a writing document, and so they have some sense of that. But uh, but they're still buying into the brainwashing. Like, that's what's I find so strange, is like they let themselves be shut down, and they let themselves be afraid, um, and then they're trying to be all diplomatic and stuff like that. And that's playing the game so the system doesn't get you. So, um, But I think there's a way to play the game, but still, um, like, honor, like, not seem so indecisive, I guess, is what I feel like around some Christians. Like, it seems like they're kind of uncertain, and, I feel like time is short and, um, you know, urgent information is needed with conviction. Uh, but, we're all human beings, we're all flawed, and maybe I expect too much. Is, uh, you know, some people probably are supposed to be non-player characters. They're supposed to just go along with everything, get along to go along, and they don't bring any integrity to the world. They're just not really even don't really have much of a soul or spirit, and they're just existing. And there's no offense. Like, I can understand if that's the case. If there's no revelation inside of you, I can't, like, nobody can say, well, try to have a spiritual life. Um, but for those who have a conscience, for those who have a soul, for those who are seekers, you need to really look into this. Jesus is a God of liberty, and that's why this country was founded on the Bible. Even though, yes, the founding fathers, if they were even real, they were they just were like atheists or agnostics rather. They believed in God, but not the God of the Bible. But that's irrelevant because we are known as a Christian country, and we are blessed as a Christian country because we follow Christian values, despite what some of the founding fathers. Washington was a Freemason, which is a Luciferian. It's satanic. And maybe he didn't know what it is, but he also expressed a concern about the Freemasons taking over this secret society. He was afraid about it taking over America because the Freemasons were involved in the French Revolution, and they were probably involved. I mean, the Bolsheviks were involved in the Russian Revolution, and that's the Freemasons. And who knows about China, if it was a secret society that brought the CCP to bear. But the Illuminati or the Freemasons hired Marx to write his book, and Hitler was involved in the Illuminati. Like, all these big bad players have the same origin. So, the same influences and stuff like that. So I think they're all working together, and I think it's a very powerful group, the Illuminati, Freemasons, Jesuits, and synagogue of Satan, this Babylonian cult, this ancient Babylonian cult, who enjoy human sacrifice, they enjoy human suffering, they enjoy maiming people, they enjoy eating people. And I know it's unthinkable and crazy, but this is what's going on, and they infiltrate the power positions. Like, what else would an evil being do? Would an evil being be like, oh, I'm just going to be a human, I'm just going to be a homeless person, I'm just going to be, the clerk, the bagging clerk at the grocery? No. Like, evil people take positions of power so they can do as much damage as possible, and not just like harming people physically, but emotionally abusing people. Like, that, I think, is possibly worse than physically harming people, is the psychological abuse of the Satanists. And I think some malignant narcissists, I think malignant narcissists, and this narcissism that's occurred, I would say, the past maybe 10, 15 years, I think they are demonized. I think they are literally harboring demons, because malignant narcissists have the same game plan. They have the same predatory approach. Like, they find the same type of person or similar types of people, they perform the same actions, they have the same reactions, for different levels of an argument. Like, they have the same playbook. It's as if they went to the same university, as if they went to the same training. They all do the same thing. And I think, like, how can, I mean, there's no way biology can train for thousands of intervals, like to be done like split second like that. So I personally think it's a supernatural thing. Like they have a, I don't know what the demon for malignant narcissism is. Is it Jezebel spirit? I don't know. Um, but that, you know, uh, just like when you are a believer in Lord Jesus Christ, that he shed his blood and that he is the living God because he died, was buried 3 days, and resurrected, according to the scriptures, you have a you then harbor the Holy Spirit in you. And so, there's like two types of people. There's people who harbor the Holy Spirit, and there's people who harbor demons. And I think it could be more or less. Like sometimes people have just like a little one molecule of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes some people have just like one molecule of demons in them or on them or around them. And then I think there's people who are completely demonized. And I think there's something to it. Like there's a lot of interesting videos on YouTube about the levels of demonic like integration or harboring, where the more demonized a person is, the dumber they become. And an example was Nancy Pelosi, like this gibberish speaking. Even though a video didn't talk about it, but like Biden, like there's just something up, and just all the creepy things he does around just any human who's around him. An adult man who's like this working class man, and Biden's putting his hand on the guy's knee, like he's on a date or something with some like truck driver type of person. Not to mention all the many, many little kids that he's doing creepy things around in public with photos. And the worst part of it are that parents who are like, oh yeah, molest my child. I mean, and that makes me wonder about all the child molestings that's happened. Is it that these mothers and fathers know, and that they're allowing their child to be molested for their own, you know, practical needs, like mothers tolerating it, especially, but fathers too. Like if either parent is doing it or children doing it to other children. And that goes back to that hero thing, is people they don't want to deal, they don't want to bring something up, they don't want to rock the boat, they don't feel like they're capable. But even if you're not capable of resolving something perfectly, like you just need to say something. You need to be like, this isn't right. I don't know what to say. And the person's going to have this really smart, they're going to be like, well, you're wrong. You're wrong and I'm right. I deserve this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, I made a mistake. You're being mean because I just made a mistake. Like I was crossing the street. It was my light. And so I thought I was safe to cross because it was still my light, and a car was going my way. But then this other car was making a sharp left. And he's like, he should have looked. Like, I was there when that car was approaching, and he used the excuse that this other car went in the way. The thing is, that guy broke the rule, because you're not supposed to turn on left when a pedestrian is crossing, and you should look. Like if you're driving and you can't see, you shouldn't be driving. If you're driving and you can't look or you won't look, you shouldn't be driving. And that's my problem with drivers, is like, even when it's my light, even when it's a small city street, even when there's a lot of pedestrians around, drivers will be like, oh, but I everything is in my favor. I'm the right person. Your life is inconsequential. Your injuries are inconsequential. It's your fault. You should have looked. You should have run the other way. And that's how people are. Whether they're on a bicycle, whether they're on a scooter, whether they're in a car. And I would say this even with my friends who are nice people, who are sober people. They have absolutely no appreciation, no value of pedestrians. Everybody wants to yell at pedestrians who are crossing the street. Like, there's these streets that are like maybe, I don't know, 5 blocks altogether. And so then drivers complain when somebody's trying to cross the street, because they don't want to have to go like a 10-mile or, like walk half a mile just to get across the street. So all the drivers like have this antipathy, this like they justify their antipathy to pedestrians, but streets are made so horrible, so treacherous for pedestrians, and drivers make it worse. And the fact that there's no like they shut down the world for a common cold, but what do they do about, you know, do they address the issue? Do they fix the issue? Do they do some type they want to do re-education camps for people who question the the lockdowns. But will they do re-education camps for mentally ill homeless people so they don't have to don't they're not drug addicts? Will they do like a recovery center for homeless people, let's say? Will they do training for angry drivers with road rage? But no, what our system does is we will do parking tickets. We're not going to do dangerous driving tickets that when pedestrians are injured or killed, I don't think anything happens to those drivers. You know, will infrastructure to make it safer for pedestrians to walk be instigated? No, no, no. Instead it's about bicyclists, and bicyclists are displaced drivers who are just as reckless and dangerous for pedestrians. And they're like, bicyclists are like, well, pedestrians should look for me, and they're doing all sorts of like illegal maneuvers all the time. And scooter drivers now with these terrible lift and lime scooters, because it's like they now like five people go as fast as humanly possible in tight situations. And like you're supposed to it's like you're in a war zone. You have to constantly be looking at who's going to try to hit you on the sidewalk. So you're trying to walk on the sidewalk fearing for your life, you're trying to cross the street fearing for your life if you're a pedestrian. So anyways, but that's the majority of the world. The majority of the world is happy. They just want to be selfish, and because it's a fallen world, it's an evil world. But then don't tell me everything's fine. Then don't tell me trust everybody, trust everything. If it is so messed up, and statistics bear me out. Uh, the reason why people had to die with a particular diagnosis is because a hospital got up to $500,000, half a million, for that diagnosis. And hospitals are there to make money. They are not there to make you feel good. They're not there to heal you. They're not necessarily there to repair you. They are there to make money. And so they got a diagnosis, which made them like up to $500,000. And then if you were like an ideal patient, they got to organ harvest you. So they probably got another half a million or million from organ harvesting, because families weren't allowed to be there, right? So everything was done without families' consent. So they got to execute and organ harvest and make a lot of money. And these are serial murderers who did this in these facilities, these hospitals and nursing homes. And they did it. They brought in lawyers to try to attack families who were trying to protect their loved ones. They brought in to set up against families who are trying to protect their loved ones who are in the hospital, time and time again, in red states. I knew of a situation in South Dakota where 4 times the hospital tried to kill this guy. The wife was pregnant with their 4th child, and the guy was like a healthy, big, not overweight, or he was just a healthy, big guy, and they wanted to kill him. They repeatedly tried to kill him. And probably because he had good organs and they wanted that $500,000. And this was in a red state. And even like local representatives were there trying to advocate for him, but the hospital was the hospital did not succeed. But the hospital did everything they could. They called the police on the family and the friends. So like this is a despicable situation that is in red states as well. And I bet something like this happened in other red states so there's no, even though liberals like to say, oh, we gotta move to red states and change it, so they give sex changes to their children and everybody's gay, and We got, pedo flags everywhere. But don't worry about it. The Chinese Communist Party has already infiltrated the red states, 40 years ago. So just to put this evil, pedo, bow on top, so to speak, uh, I don't think it's necessary. And yeah. I mean, but, maybe, I mean, it's a question is like what, because it's like cities have sold out their people. And I would say a majority of American cities have sold out their people. And I'm like, so these city people, these city officials sell out their people. And, you watch the city council meetings, you watch the school board meetings, and these are just like serpents. Seriously. I mean, these are like evil people, just soulless, like the worst people, the people you loathe in the workplace or at school or whatever. And now they're in charge of your city, and they just sell you out. They sell your children out. They sell your land out. It's like it's revolting. It's stomach turning, and everybody's just so busy making money, trying to have this Instagram life, trying to live, do this lifestyle of the rich and famous, or um, making entertainment. And we're watching this kind of stuff to get our minds off of whatever stress in life and stuff like that. And we let these evil, demonized, soulless, malignant cancers run our cities and our schools. And then we try, like, what's worse is when people defend them, like the porn that's being pushed on children in children's libraries and children's schools. And like I have well educated friends who support it, and they're like, oh, it's this, it's that. They like poo poo what's going on. They're like, oh, it's not as bad as you're saying. um and I'm not saying, again, do anything physical or whatever, but um you need to speak up. And this is for supernatural purposes. So these people who have been demonized, whether it is our city officials or our family members or our friends, like, we need to say, this is wrong. I don't know exactly how to describe it, perhaps, but this is wrong. I don't feel good about this. And they're just maybe robots. I mean, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if people have become like, um if they've become like invaded, like possessed, like invasion of the body snatchers or the Stepford wives. Like, I'm wondering if sort of weird possession has occurred, because the people I know, people in my family and people I've known as friends, uh, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they would not have tolerated what's going on right now. Like, if you see the violation of liberty, the violation of human rights, um, like, if their old selves were here, they would see, but somehow they haven't. So I'm like, what kind of brainwashing has occurred the past 15 years? Is it pixelation on mobile phones? Is it Facebook? Like, what changed people? Like, did they all get a certain type of vaccination? Because these are inhuman. Like, they're I mean, it's weird because they'll have human reactions, but their decisions or their greater moral compass is inhuman. And it's I mean, is it being comfortable? Is it having money that makes people not care about morality? I don't know. I mean, and I guess, like, when you have nothing to lose, you're more willing to say something. And that's the issue, is like, all these people are like, but I don't want to lose my nice job and blah blah blah, my friends. And yeah, those are big things. I'm sorry to make light of it or whatever. I know it's huge. It's like a loss of identity, and that's tremendous. But are you really like, so you're going to be this nice person who allows children to be suffocated, who allows children to have something penetrating their cribriform plate and breaking their blood-brain barrier. You're going to allow children to have something put in their bloodstream. Like, you're a good person, but you're gonna make this happen, and that's how evil things happen, and that's how evil things stop, is when everybody stops implementing the agenda of these evildoers. Like, I think it was, I forget what quote it was from, but yeah, like, just like stop suffocating people, stop breaking their form plate, stop poisoning them, stop bashing certain people, um, stop speaking against them, especially if you're in one of those, like if you're an environmentalist, stop trying to make somebody feel guilty for flying a plane, especially when your leaders, the World Economic Forum, all fly private jets, and they require that the pilots avoid vaccinations. Like, that's the thing. Your globalist, um, you know, environmentalists won't fly where there's a pilot who's been injected because it's too much of a danger. That they'll all die. So, just it's so obvious. Um, I wish people wanted to learn more. I wish people wanted to uh, look out for themselves and had a conscience, had a care for humanity, and I think we did. But like TV shows and movies, the past maybe 20 years have become so soulless and disgusting. Like media, like who's like the movie stars and musicians and stuff like that. It's all just so like gross, so ugly, and the music has nothing in it. Generally, the art is soulless. It's brutal. It's icky. It's fake. I mean, there are some performers. I mean, I would say the comedy is pretty amazing now, much better now. Um, but yeah, like what passes for art and for music and for like role models in in our government or movies, it's pathetic. But people think these are great. Like when Harry Potter came out, and what was that, 15, 20 years ago, I was like, this is very I thought it was very divisive. I really didn't like Harry Potter, like this racism in Harry Potter. Like he was like the muggles, you know, like I was like, what is up with this? And for one thing, I don't think J.K. Rowling is a biological female, and I think she's just some sort of pawn to push the agenda. And I certainly don't think that she wrote it, just like Stephen King, who I think is also a female to male. And I think all of these books are written by committee, and maybe by people who are MK Ultra torture subjects. Um, so, um, but yeah, the themes. I don't know. I just, so I'm wondering if Harry Potter was like this influence of this social breakdown. Like because like and like the whole Harry Potter character, oh, I'm this magical being, and then my family, who treats me terribly, are subhuman. That's what Harry Potter to me was. It's just like, I'm this magical unicorn human living amongst these ordinary subhumans. And that's what this whole like LBGT thing and this BLM thing and this environmentalist thing. Like, what else am I missing? Um, like, I think they all think there's some special unicorn human being, and anybody who doesn't comply and capitulate is a subhuman. And I think that's very dangerous. And clearly, it is very dangerous. And like, what is so disgusting is they're like, and we want your children. Like, you don't get to have your children. We get to change the sex of your children or brainwash your children to be have a different orientation behind your back, and you have to deal with the consequences afterwards because you're going to have to deal with the medical situation and the mental health issues and so forth, and the violence that occurs when somebody's in chronic pain under crazy hormone influences, and then who knows what drug influences, who knows what kind of molestation is going on um, to that child, their family. It's like torturing. It's like a war, creating a war in the family. And of course, that's what Satan wants to do. Satan wants to disrupt the family. And so people can't even work clearly, can't even think clearly, can't drive clearly. And then what does somebody do? They start drinking, they start doing drugs, they start doing other coping mechanisms that are destructive. So, and I think that's what happened with, you know, I think that's what autism is. It's very, very hard on the family, um, and other untreated illnesses. So, I know things were bad in the 60s and 70s. There's all these books and shows and stuff like difficulties in patriarchy. But the thing is, we're still in patriarchy. That's what feminists don't realize. That's what the LGBT community doesn't realize. Is you guys are now the new patriarchy. You guys are the new abusive rulers. You're the same thing. You're the same mentality. You're even more vicious. You're even more abusive and evil. Because at least in the old patriarchy, they weren't chopping up little children's genitalia like they do now, like you do now, like you do feminists, like you do trans, pedo, LBGT people, and abortions. Like in the old patriarchy, babies weren't killed up to the day of birth. Now, what is it, a month of birth? And was it going to be like a year later you can kill your children? And like the Church of Satan now is like, yeah, we get to kill babies because that's our religion. That's our religious practice. But liberals will be like, oh, that's not true. Oh, that's not happening. We get what we deserve, you know? And there's just only like a few people, like, I don't know, maybe 100, 300 people that follow this kind of thing, like out of millions of the whole world. Like when I'm looking at different websites and stuff that show you how many people read, it's only like a few hundred people who are following this kind of situation, and those are like a few hundred. So how many are trolls? How many are like not even, let's say, half of them? So it's really a small portion of people that care enough to follow, and maybe there's a large amount who I have no awareness of their existence that do care, that are maybe in other countries. But anyways, all I'm saying is hold to your values and gently, without physical contact, just say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. And uh like, everybody has a right to their opinion. So let's say you're amongst a bunch of Christians and you're a gay person saying, well, I'm not comfortable with Jesus. you got to listen then to what the argument is. Well, Jesus, this is what Jesus said, and all we're doing is following what Jesus said. And instead of taking it as a personal insult, and yet humans are dumb and stupid and abusive, so they'll put it as an insult. But the reason why God has these rules, that a woman is supposed to be with a man and a man is supposed to be with a woman, is not to cramp your style, is not to maliciously ruin your fun. It's to take care of you. And I really, and the thing is, everybody I've known who were gay or lesbian had some very strange situation in their family of rape, like hyper religious parents or hyper cultish kind of parents. So I think there's some psychological stuff about the parents and the family dynamics. And I also wonder about health issues, getting injections, a lot of injections. What does that do to mix of a parent to a child? Particularly, I think an over-involved mother, a kind of neurotic mother, I think makes for a gay son. Like a son's like, I just don't have the bandwidth for females. After, even though he may love his mom, to her dying day, like he'll never be involved with a woman. Um, so yeah, somebody just started chewing on something, so sorry, it's distracting. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and thank you for watching. God bless.